Hello and welcome to this Affinity Photo tutorial, and it's about the adjustment presets or LUTs that you can get for Affinity Photo. Now, one of the most seen questions I see in Facebook groups and other places is to do with Affinity Photo presets. Where to buy them, how to use them, what are they, etc, etc. Now, the intro for this video covers something that is the same on all formats of Affinity Photo, so will be the same in both videos, the one for the PC and Mac and the other for the iPad version. Now, the term preset in this context is very misleading, more so I would imagine for those moving over from Photoshop. Now, I don't own Photoshop, but from the Photoshop tutorials I've seen, they look like they sort of actions that you get with Photoshop are sort of part macro and part LUT, whereas Affinity Photo presets you can buy, you will get for free, or you can get for free, will be 100% LUTs. If you do an internet search for Affinity Photo presets, you will find many results, but, and it is a big but, although Affinity Photo will let you make and save presets for pretty much all of the adjustment layers, the only adjustment that will allow you to export to other people or import from other people's presets is the LUT adjustment. So websites like Artixty, I think I have pronounced that correctly, advertise 5,000 plus presets for Affinity Photo, but they are just selling LUTs. To Artixty's credit, they state that they are LUTs. Many I've seen do not, but in all honesty, who needs 5,000 plus LUTs? You are not going to try out all 5,000 on every picture that you edit, and if you install them into Affinity Photo, you will most likely slow down your PC, Mac or iPad so much that it will become impossible to use. In my opinion, it's best to find a few that you like, or maybe better still, make your own, and just have these 10 or so you like installed as presets. Then just access the others if and when you need something a bit different. Most of the text for this narration has been lifted from a written tutorial I did, I think back in November, on this subject, and you can download that from Dropbox. It was made for the PC Mac version of Affinity Photo, but should be just as relevant for the iPad. I will add a link to that file in the description of this video. Now, before starting this tutorial, a quick disclaimer. I may not get the facts about LUTs 100% right. This is just how I think they work, but in truth, if what I'm going to say isn't quite how they work, the end result is all that really matters, so hopefully no harm, no foul. So what is a LUT? Well, LUT or LUT stands for Lookup Table, which I believe was originally designed for video editing, but can also be used with stills cameras. I believe, as the name suggests, it is a list or a table of mathematical settings assigned to colours. Now, I'm not sure if they use hex code numbers or some other form of numbering, but for the sake of argument, let's just assume they are using hex codes. The hex code for black is 000000, and the hex code for white is FFFFFF. Now, if the lookup table tells the software to alter all pixels that are 000000 black to FFFFFF FFF, white, then all black pixels will be made into white pixels. Obviously you wouldn't alter just one pixel color range, you'd alter a whole range of colored pixels, but in different ways. And this list of those changes is what a LUT is. Now that is a very basic explanation, but I hope it does explain it. So why would you use a LUT? Once made, a LUT is a bit like a macro, or for Photoshop users, an action. It is a way to alter an image in a certain way in just one click. The main difference really being is that a LUT only affects the color and tone of an image, whereas an Affinity Photo macro or a Photoshop action could be used to do so much more. In fact, it may be best to use the LUT near the end of your editing process, do all your resizing, cropping, dodging, burning, etc. first, and then use the LUT to get the colours the way you want them to look. So an example of a usage. Now you may not have watched the CSI TV programs, but I'm going to use this as an imagined use of the LUTs. There are 3 CSI programs. The first was set in Las Vegas and was mainly set in as the sun was setting or at night time. Then came CSI Miami, which was set in bright Florida sunshine, and then came CSI New York, which was set in a much colder and drab colour palette. Now, apart from some special scenes that were outdoor scenes, I think for the most part all of these shows were largely filmed in California. So the film cameras may have used coloured filters to achieve the colours or tones they needed for the various shows. They may have also used LUTs. These they made themselves to use on the scenes they filmed. So let us assume that the CSI production company have a plot for an episode, but they are uncertain which version of CSI they're going to use the story in. So have sent to me an image they want to look like to be made for all 3 of the CSI programs. This is a city image which actually comes from Pixabay. Needs to be altered in 3 ways to see if it will work best in either Las Vegas, Miami or the New York CSI shows. Even though, and I believe this is an image of New York, it needs to fit the show's colour palettes. So I will need a LUT to get it to match each show's basic colour settings. So I've made 3 LUTs, and here is the same image, but each time affected by one of the LUTs I have made as a possible colour palette for each CSI show. So the first being New York LUT, which made the image much bluer and colder, and I muted down the colours. Next was the Miami LUT, which made the whole image yellower and warmer, and I pushed up the colour saturation a bit. Lastly was the Las Vegas LUT, which made the whole image look more like an early evening shot with more shadows and less colour overall. I will just then need to add headlights on the cars or lights from the windows. So hopefully you can see how the 3 different LUTs can alter the same image in such different ways, giving each its own feel, and I hope making the image look right for either of the TV shows. To answer the question why use LUTs, I guess the simple answer is to get a uniformed look across the whole video shoot, or in our case across a whole set of single images. I use 3 different adjustment layers to get each of the effects I've used on those various images, which on a single image is really not too much hassle. But what if you've been given 100 images all needing the same look or feel? You'd have to make notes of the settings you had used on the first image and repeat the whole process a further 99 times. It's much easier to edit the one image colours and tones and then export that as a LUT and then use that LUT on all the other images so they all work together in colour and tone. Now, before moving on to the PC, Mac or iPad version of this tutorial, I just want to add that the link for the Pixabay image is in the description for this video on YouTube. You might just need to click on the show more button, I think it is, as is the link for two of Olivia Sakarikas's tutorials about LUTs, which may explain them better than I have. Plus, in their video descriptions there are links to download some LUTs. Now, this is the iPad version of looking at LUTs in the adjustments, and before I get going I just want to sort of have a look at this screen grab which I got from my PC version. And as you can see here, we have a list of LUTs that were available in a 35 free LUTs pack that I got from somewhere. I can't remember where now, but as you can see, you got the all these file names here, and they all end in .cube. Now, there are other LUT file types. I think one is called look, but I've found personally that the ones that end in .cube I've had no problems with. They all work perfectly well. So, and the other problems with these file names is that the file names give absolutely no idea of what this particular LUT does. So for example, there's one here, if I just tap on that, it says Kobe, and then we've got one down here, there's Hyla, sort of Milo, Tegan. That gives you no idea as to what this particular LUT is going to do. So this would be sort of my advice, is when you make your own LUTs, give it a name that will tell you what that LUT will do. Like for example, like Kodak Vintage. You know that that is going to give you a vintage look of a sort of Kodak film style. You could sort of open an image, adjust it, just add increase the yellow in the image and call it Chronos, and then you could do another one, increase the yellow a bit more, call it Chronos 2, and then increase the yellow more and call it Chronos 3. You might know what that means, but if you're going to export that to someone else, they're going to look at it and see Chronos 1, 2 and 3, what's going on there? So if you had, like I said in the intro, you had 5,000 of these, you can see how it's going to take up a lot of space, and it would just be sort of become unmanageable to have so many different LUTs installed onto your computer. So now I've finished looking at this, I'm going to rotate so I have the iPad in landscape, and I will come back to you. Right, now I want to sort of really start the iPad tutorial looking at LUTs and how you can use them and install them and what have you. Now, this image I got from Pixabay.com, and it was originally, the lady was sort of standing up, but I've cropped it and rotated it, and it looks like she's laying on the floor. And this was part of my written tutorial looking at the CSI LUTs, because I wanted this to sort of represent a sort of dead body. So I'm going to use this again, and if I come to the adjustments icon here, and you can see down here we have at the bottom or near the bottom, you've got LUT, so I'm going to tap on that. I'll close that menu, and at the bottom we have the context menu with all the options, and the very first one is load. Now if I tap on that, it's gone to my iCloud drive. Yours might go to other cloud storage, wherever you've stored your files. And as you can see here, all the ones called that end in .cube have been highlighted. Now one of the LUTs on that list of PC LUTs that I liked was one called Paladin, so I'm going to just tap on that and it will return to the iPad, and as you can see it has adjusted that to a sepia look. So this is a bit like the names of files are misleading sort of thing, because Paladin to me is an old soldier from medieval times. So to me that conjures an image of someone in a shiny metal armour, and I was expecting it to make a sort of cold metal type feel, but it makes this sort of deep sepia. So, but once you've installed, well, not so much installed, we haven't installed anything yet, it's just been sort of added as an adjustment layer. And now if I click on the very last item in the context menu at the bottom, sort of add preset, we just now need to enter a name, and this was called Paladin, so I'm going to rename mine to dark sepia, so that gives me a name that I know, what is going on. And then I'm just going to add Paladin to give its original name. So hopefully it doesn't ruin any copyright details, and so that now is added to the preset list. So let me just delete this layer, going back to the original, and again I will come to the adjustment. Now this time I'm going to tap and hold the name adjustment at the top here, and then just move to the left to give me a list of all the adjustments, and I'm going to come down until LUT is highlighted, and there you can see the list of presets for LUTs. So the first 6 were made by Serif and are part of the program, and then the K-Tone Vintage look is one I downloaded myself, which I used in a previous written tutorial, and if I remember I will add the link in the description of this video. And then below that we have the one I've just made, which is dark sepia Paladin. So as you can see, that is how you can sort of make the preset from one that you've imported, and then add it to your presets and rename it, would be my advice. Now just above that list of LUTs you've got the word default, and to the right of that is a little hamburger menu, and if you tap on that you get rename category, delete category, export category, import LUT, and sort LUT by name. So this is where I mean that this is adjustment is the only one that will allow you to import and export, etc. And if we go to the very top, the 3 icons on the right at the top, there is another hamburger menu, and if you tap on that we've got create new category, import category, and sort category by date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create new category, and as you can see underneath dark sepia it is now added LUTs, and I'm going to click on the hamburger menu next to that, rename category, and I'm going to call this so I want capitals. CSI LUTs. Okay, and now it's been renamed to CSI LUTs. I'm going to import a LUT. So I've got my CSI LUTs here, and it should import that. So that's now added, the Las Vegas one. So I think we can only do these one at a time, I think. So I'm just going to do all 4 of these. Now there are 4 because in the written tutorial that I did about the LUTs, the CSI LUTs, I sort of imagined that they'd made a new series called CSI London, so I made a LUT for CSI London as well. So there I have my 4 CSI LUTs, which I've installed this way, whereas the dark sepia Paladin LUT I installed by adding it as the preset adjustment and then adding it as a preset itself. So I could now, you can sort of rename this category, and then you could export it out now and sort of add it to your files to back it up, for example, or to pass it on to someone else so they can install it as a category. So that is how you can import LUTs and create categories. Right, now that I've made these CSI LUTs, we should have a look at their effect on this particular image. So if I just tap on the CSI Las Vegas, which was the nighttime shoot, if you remember correctly, that has now made this image much darker. And if I then click on the Miami one, which was a bright sunny sort of show, so you've got a much brighter image, and then CSI New York, which was the duller, cooler tone, and the CSI London, which was very similar to New York, much cooler, but I made it sort of a slightly cleaner, less foggy type image. So that is the end of my look at LUTs and adding them and using them on the iPad. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.